What's up, YouTube? It's everyone's favorite Camputee here, and right now in front of me I have the Sig Cross in 6.5 Creedmoor. I recently purchased this from a good friend of mine. His name rhymes with none of your business. And when I first got this thing, I went ahead and slapped a suppressor on it right away because that's how I intend on using it. The suppressor I put on it initially was a Silencer Co. Hybrid 46, but that's a pretty hefty suppressor, and I felt like it kind of defeated the purpose of having such a lightweight rifle and then having a heavy ass suppressor on it and, you know, potentially a super heavy scope. So I ended up taking the scope that I had on it off. I took that suppressor off, and I put this Primary Arms 4-14 on it because I feel like it is an appropriate magnification range for what I intend on doing with this rifle, which is hunting. I plan on using this for deer hunting this year. And I put the Titanium Nomad, Dead Air Nomad, on there. I will say, in my experience, I believe the regular Nomad, though it is heavier, to be more pleasant at the shooter's ear than the Titanium Nomad, but that's, you know, my personal opinion. Really, that's not backed up with any fact. Anyway, I'm gonna post a couple of videos on my Patreon, so this really only applies to 2 people because I've only got 2 subscribers to my Patreon, but I'm gonna go over a couple of things that people should consider, or really one major thing that I think that people should consider whenever they're choosing a bedside gun or a truck gun or their EDC, you know, GAT. But you'd have to subscribe to my Patreon to see that. Most of you cheap bastards aren't going to do that anyway. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to shoot this Sig Cross with some Hornady American Gunner 140 grain. I don't even know if they make American Gunner anymore. It was awesome for a while there. Like, you could actually get some decently priced ammo that shot decent for 6.5 Grendel and for 6.5 Creedmoor and, you know, other chamberings. I've also got some Fiocchi, however you want to pronounce it, high performance that uses the 129 grain SST. I'm a big fan of the 123 grain SST for deer murder, but you know, I imagine the 129 grain would do well also. I've also got some 140 grain ELDM. A lot of people don't know this, but a lot of the early chambers for 6.5 Creedmoor were cut for this bullet, so a lot of times they shoot that bullet very well. And this one right here is what I consider to be the gold standard. There's actually some blood on the box because I've killed a lot of deer with this bullet. This is the 130 grain Berger loaded up in the federal gold medal match or whatever. Yeah, it's the Berger OTM 130 grain. And I've killed, I think, 6 deer with this bullet between 210 yards and I think the closest one was 60 yards, and they were all headshots with a different 6.5 Creedmoor. But yeah, it's, you know, it doesn't really matter what you use if you shoot them in the head. And people can talk to me about, you know, the ethics of, you know, headshots and hunting and whatever. That's cool, man. Whatever you think is ethical, that's a moral dilemma, and your morals are determined by yourself. So, you know, my morals might not align with yours. We're probably not even the same religion. I also think that felons should be allowed to own firearms. That's a hot topic for some people. I feel like, you know, if somebody is a felon, then they've already probably done their time. And at what point is your debt to society paid? You know, so it's like, you know, you fuck up and then, you know, you do the time for your crime or whatever. But then it never ends. You're never, you know, legally allowed to own a firearm after that. That doesn't make sense to me. I think that, and, you know, another hot topic, you know, I believe that everyone should be allowed to own a firearm because we have the Second Amendment, and it doesn't discriminate in the Second Amendment who can and can't. Anyway, that's a little bit of an extreme view for most of y'all probably. You probably say, well, I think the Second Amendment, blah, 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 but no, suck a dick. All right. These are the 140 grain boat tail hollow points that are the American Gunner. $24.75.5. $25.10, and I accidentally hit the Garmin Zero. That did not shoot well. $25.34.7. So the average is $25.06. All right. And because it's only 3 shots, I don't really care about standard deviation, extreme spread, and stuff like that, because you don't have enough points to get an accurate reading on that. In my expert opinion, I say expert opinion because I'm an expert. Allegedly. At least that's what the Soldier's Creed said, or something like that, about being an expert, a professional. So I guess because I'm not anymore, I'm not either of those things. All right. This is that high performance stuff. Let's see how these shoot. Oh, I've only got 4 of these left. That's okay. I'm probably not going to like the way this shoots anyway. Yeah, that stuff did not shoot well. I've seen a lot of reviews for the Sig Cross saying that the level of precision is not, you know, what people were hoping for, unless they did like hand loads for it, and like a lot of factory ammo didn't shoot well through it. That may very well be true. It might be, you know, a shit barrel that they put on these from the factory. I don't know. I will tell you that that group down there is ass. The first group. All right. Let's go there. $26.47.8. $26.47.2. That's a fucking good group. That is a fucking good group. 26.79.2, average of 26.58 flat. Yeah, that's just 3 shots all stacked into like one ragged hole. Cool. All right, so it did like those. That's actually what I zeroed the scope with, because I wasn't a fan of this ammo out of my Ruger American. I'm gonna let this cool off a little bit. I'll let this cool off a little bit, and then I'll shoot some more. That last group was a really good group, and it'd be real cool if every one of my guns shot that good with every type of ammo. But life isn't all pussy and waffles, my friends. You know, sometimes it's the government and paying taxes, which is real gay. Alright. This is the 140 grain ELDM factory offering from horny daddy. All right, I'm gonna go for, also adjusted the scope down a 1/2 mil. That's not a bad group. Slow, not a bad group. All right, so the average for those was 2489.3. So, like I said, slow. All right, I'm gonna go to a new session, rifle, 17 to 1,000,000 feet per second, 5 to 15 inches away. These are the 130 grain Berger Federal Gold Medal Match offering. Like I said, I've killed a bunch of deer with this, and I don't know, I tell people that if their 6.5 Creedmoor doesn't shoot well, to try this, because I've never had one that did not shoot this well. It will be hard to beat the 129 grain Fiocchi load that I shot a little bit ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did shoot very well. At some point, whenever you're shooting groups like that, like that Fiocchi group that I shot, you start to have to incorporate, like if you have a group that's maybe 1/8 of an inch bigger or so, how much of that was human error? You know, were you shooting it off of a sled? Were you shooting it off of a rest? Or were you shooting it off of a bipod in a bag? You know, so there's a lot more factors whenever it comes to something like that. So I feel like if a gun shoots half MOA every single time you shoot it, if it always shoots half MOA with, you know, a certain lot of ammo and everything like that every single time, then you can hit a 1 MOA target. I'm not going to say guaranteed, because nothing's guaranteed, but you should be able to hit a 1 MOA target on your best day with your first shot. That's also something I've done a write-up on. I might post that write-up on my Patreon. That was a write-up I did for a magazine. Anyway. Alright, let's see, what target do I want to shoot at? I want to shoot at that one because I like the shape. It's very symmetrical. This trigger is nice, but it's unique. Normally on a bolt action gun you have a single action trigger, or I'm sorry, a single stage trigger, and this is a 2-stage trigger. It's interesting. It doesn't feel bad, especially me being an AR guy. Another factor that has to be considered sometimes is, as you can tell by the Blackbeard flag in the background, well, you probably can't see it from the angle that you're at, but you might be able to see the shadow on the ground of it or something. That flag is whipping pretty good right now, and I'm not saying that that's going to affect your shot, when the target is only 100 yards away. But the target, if you're just shooting at, like, you know, a piece of paper on a cardboard with, you know, 2 posts or whatever, like what I'm shooting at, and then the wind blows, the target actually moves a little bit. So, you know, you might think that you're dead on the target, and right whenever you pull the trigger, the wind blows and the target moves a little bit. So that's something else that you have to consider. I mean, like, you know, you post pictures of groups all the time that can be, you know, great groups, and then you post a picture one day where you're like, oh, my groups are ass today, and it's like, well, how windy was it? You know, was the target moving? You know, that's a factor. Did you have a lot of mirage coming off of your suppressor? There's so many things involved with it that people pay me for, so I'm going to stop talking about it. Go to my Patreon if you want to learn more. Anyway, the average for that was $26.99. No surprise, because this ammo is awesome. The group, I think the last shot is the one that is the farthest one away from the actual like aggregate of the group. Still not a bad group. And I'll show you guys pictures of that. Basically, this is going to be a hunting rifle for me this year, and hopefully I will schmurder lots of deer with it. And my wife too. Hopefully my wife kills deer with it too. Me and her both killed deer with 6.5 Grendel. She and I both killed all of our deer with 6.5 Grendel last year. Whew. And I love 6.5 Grendel for deer hunting, 300 yards and in. But last year I did make a 433 yard shot on a deer. It was a headshot with the 6.5 Grendel, and it was outside of what I am comfortable with shooting with a 6.5 Grendel, but I'm completely comfortable shooting deer out to 600 with a 6.5 Creedmoor. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope y'all decide to quit being cheap bastards and go to my Patreon. I get messaged every single day by people asking me questions that are on my Patreon. These are questions that people pay me for the answers. So quit being a cheap bastard. Pay me for the answers. Ask me whatever questions you want to on Patreon, and I'll answer them. Anyway, y'all get out there and suck today's dick.